Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Up the Middle, your new sports talk show here on the campus of Concordia University, Wisconsin. My name is Will Montreal, your host for this show, and we'll be talking sports. As you know, everybody loves to talk about sports. We'll be talking about the big news around all the major sports here. We'll talk NFL, we'll talk MLB, we'll talk NBA. The goal is to keep you all up to date on the most current information around each of the leagues. And I'm looking forward to coming along with this ride with you guys for this semester. Today I'll be running solo. Every once in a while, though, we will have a guest on the show to help kind of keep the conversation going and to get other inputs besides my own for this show. Because, you don't want to hear me talk for the entire, however long this show is going to end up going. But so once in a while, we'll have a guest on. We'll get some interviews going. And we'll talk to people about the sports and with their thoughts on the topics we're going to reach at hand. So today, we'll start off talking about the NFL. We'll go over big news recently. We'll talk about Antonio Brown and that entire situation. We'll move over to the recent trades that have been made the last couple days. We'll see which ones may be the biggest impact this season for those teams that have acquired those players. And then lastly, we'll look into free agency, which opens up next Wednesday when the new league year kicks off. We'll take a look at some of the big names on the market and which big moves might be made. We'll head over to the MLB after that. Give a quick rundown. It's spring training time, everybody. So baseball less than a month away now, as teams are starting to get some of their pitching a couple more innings here and there. Make sure they can stretch their arms out before the season starts. We'll talk Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. They have finally decided where they're going to end up for the next almost 10 seasons here. We'll talk about who will make a bigger impact in year one with their new organizations. And we'll finish up the MLB talk with remaining free agents still on the market. And will they have jobs by the time opening day rolls around? We'll head to the NBA after that, and we'll talk about the playoff picture right now in the NBA. We'll talk about who's on the bubble, who's sitting pretty as we head to the home stretch of the NBA season. We'll take a look at the Eastern Conference, take a look at the Western Conference. Can anybody beat the Warriors out west, and who's the biggest competition they have heading into the postseason? And we'll take a look to close the show. We'll talk about LeBron James. Just passed Michael Jordan, fourth all-time on the scoring list now, but his minutes will be reduced here the last couple weeks of this season. We'll talk about the impact of that, and we'll talk about the Lakers for this last season and whether or not it was a disappointment for LA. So we'll take a quick break. When I come back, we'll start off with the NFL here on Up the Middle. Welcome back to Up the Middle. We're going to start out by talking about Antonio Brown and the recent saga that has become his last couple of weeks here in the NFL. So big news, he was reportedly traded to the Buffalo Bills on Thursday night. That trade fell through. Reportedly there was not as much interest between Buffalo and Pittsburgh as once thought. There's also talks that Antonio Brown didn't want to come to Buffalo and had told the Bills that, if you trade for me, I will not show up to camp. So that right there, turn off for the Buffalo Bills, obviously. They do not want a guy like Antonio Brown not showing up to camp, a guy who's going to be making close to $15 million a season, not coming to play for their football team, so why would they waste a draft pick on him? Also about Antonio Brown, so Bill's also kind of backed away because he's looking for a new contract. Details of what he's looking for haven't been confirmed, but he's looking to be paid as he's looking to be the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. For Antonio Brown, this whole last couple weeks has been, in my opinion, it's been a roller coaster for him. Obviously, it all started, as many of you probably know, it all started back week 17, as Brown didn't show up to practice that week heading into a game against Cincinnati Bengals in week 17. Brown's agent called Pittsburgh and said, I know he wasn't in practice this week, but he's going to play. He's ready to play this weekend. Mike Tomlin of Pittsburgh said, no, you will not play this weekend. You're staying home. So that, from right there, the tension, it was kind of the beginning of the end for Antonio Brown in Pittsburgh. He went and trash talked the organization, went and trash talked Ben Roethlisberger, which are kind of valid complaints. Ben Roethlisberger has been confirmed as not the greatest teammate to play with. Pittsburgh's organization has been kind of, partially due to this Ben Roethlisberger situation, Antonio Brown, Le'Veon Bell as well this season, their organization has not been held in the same high regard that you're kind of used to hearing in Pittsburgh Steelers' name. So Antonio Brown, he trash talk team, went out, demanded a trade, sat down with the owner. Both of them agreed it was best to move on, and it was best for Antonio Brown to be sent somewhere else. The question at that point just became, where would Antonio Brown go? Pittsburgh looking for a first-round draft pick, initially looking for a first-round draft pick and another high-end player before they were forced to settle back, take a step back from that situation and look at it and say, all right, well, let's take a first-round pick because the offers weren't coming in as quickly as they want. A lot of teams have backed down on Antonio Brown's situation. They backed out early. Brown sat down and had an interview, I think it was last week right before the Combine, in which he said a lot of things. One thing that he said was, I don't even need to play football. And if I'm sitting here, and if I'm an NFL GM, and I hear a football player, a very good, very good football player, don't get me wrong, he's probably the best wide receiver in the NFL. If I hear a guy say, I don't even need to play football, it kind of makes me question his commitment, you know? You sit back, you look at this guy, and you say, you have such talent, but if you don't get traded, you don't want, or if you can't find a place to go, you don't care if you play football. Is that what I'm kind of understanding what I'm getting, or you just don't think you need to play football? For me, the Antonio Brown situation it's up and down. If I'm sitting, because I'm from Wisconsin, Green Bay Packer fan, people are like, oh, should Brown come to Green Bay? I'm sitting in this chair right now looking at it and saying, I don't know. My feelings would be very different, I think. My feelings would go back and forth. He's an immensely talented football player. If Green Bay sent their number 30 overall pick to Pittsburgh for Antonio Brown, he would help the team on the football field. But off the field, it's a question that can't be answered right now by a lot of teams. The teams like Washington's backed out. Oakland reportedly backed out. Buffalo backed out now too. There's a limited amount of teams that have the cap space and potentially the need to bring in a wide receiver. A lot of these teams that have the cap space and the need aren't that great, I guess you could say. They're not top tier in the NFL. And if Antonio doesn't want to go to Buffalo, yes, Buffalo is kind of what I saw at one time was the Siberia of the NFL. It's not a very great place to play football. Just saying. Haven't had a lot of success there recently. It's cold all the time. Not a very great town for NFL players to play football in for multiple years, which is why you don't see a lot of high end free agents ever going there. You see a lot of guys leave from Buffalo. But Antonio Brown, if he wants to play on a competitor, he's going to have limited options. And part of me believes that his actions from the last couple of weeks are hurting him. The stuff he said about Pittsburgh, I think, potentially hurts both him and hurts the organization as a whole. The fact that he gave up on his teammates in Week 17, and then his agent called and said, "Hey, he'll come out and play." That doesn't look good. Just because you said, I'll come out and play after not showing up to practice doesn't mean the team should let you, whether or not you're the best receiver in the NFL. There's another whole thing. I had an argument with one of my coworkers one time a couple days ago. So Antonio Brown said that Mike Tomlin basically threw him under the bus prior to the Week 17 game and said that it was Antonio Brown's decision not to play that week. Brown called him out for it. Brown says that's not correct. I wanted to play that week. But I know, I believe I know where Mike Tomlin was coming from in that. What Mike Tomlin meant by saying it was his choice not to play this week is because you didn't show up to practice this week. You're not playing this week. It was your choice not to show up to practice, so it was your choice not to play this weekend, whether or not your agent says you're ready to go. I believe that's what Mike Tomlin meant by that. At this point, Antonio Brown, I think, is just trying to cover his butt, essentially, and try to come off as, yeah, I'm ready to play football. I was here to play football. I would have went that game. But he gave on his team first. That's my big opinion on this matter. He gave up on the team first. He should suffer the consequences for it with the team. And for that, he will get traded. Yesterday was supposedly Antonio Brown's soft deadline, I guess Pittsburgh would call it, to trade. They wanted him gone by tomorrow. That's when they wanted the trade done. Because on the 17th of March, a couple days into the new season, they have to pay him a roster bonus of a couple $1 million. And Pittsburgh would rather avoid that. So they'd rather trade him sooner rather than later, I guess, and avoid paying that $2 million. The question is, where will he go at this point? So many teams have taken a step back on the situation and said, yeah, we don't want him here. We don't need to give you a draft pick for him. So I also believe, how far will Pittsburgh's asking price drop before they have to give him up for something that they may not want as much? Right now, if they can't find common ground for a first round draft pick, will that trade value for Antonio Brown continue to drop, potentially falling maybe like a second round pick? If that's the case, some team, if they get a football player who's willing to come out and run around and try his hardest week in, week out, show up to practice maybe, that's a steal. That's an absolute steal. Whether or not that he gets a new contract, which I believe he wants to get paid about $20 million a season. Right now, Odell Beckham Jr.'s contract at $18 million a season is the highest for the wide receiver in the NFL per season on average. Antonio Brown coming in at $17 on average with his newest contract. However, the last 2 years of this contract are relatively cheap for teams. He's making 12 and 12, about $12 million a year. His cap hit though this next season is $22 million, and then his cap hit in 2020 is $18 million before he has a potential out after 2020, heading into 2021, which would likely be his last year with an organization as he hits age 33 that season. But it's very interesting to see what the situation, how it'll all play out in the next couple of weeks. Is Pittsburgh wants him gone in just over a week? Will the rest of the NFL step up and make that move to pick him up? That is the big question we have. If you're asking me, bold prediction where he's going to go, I'm going to say. So when I was talking with some people yesterday, I predicted Indianapolis could be an interesting spot for him. They got some money. They have a good quarterback. They made the postseason last year. Antonio Brown and T.Y. Hilton on the same football team could be something special. Will that happen? I don't know. I honestly have no clue where Antonio Brown could end up. But it'll be interesting to watch the next couple weeks what will happen with Antonio. Move in now as we get closer to the new season, or the off season officially getting started. Next week, Wednesday the 15th. A couple trades have gone down here in the last couple of days. Case Keenum sent to the Washington Redskins, the former Denver Broncos and Minnesota Vikings quarterback, sent to the Washington Redskins to play quarterback this season, with Alex Smith likely missed the entire season. That's why they got some insurance in Case Keenum. Olivier Vernon, defensive lineman, former New York Giants, sent to the Cleveland Browns for offensive guard Kevin Zeitler. I think that's a good trade for both sides. Another one that was made yesterday, Michael Bennett gets sent to the New England Patriots. The former Seattle Seahawk and Philadelphia Eagle. Most recently, the Philadelphia Eagle will be in New England next season. It's a good move, I believe, for New England, which will likely lose Trey Flowers in free agency, which will allow Michael Bennett to kind of step into his place. Michael Bennett, kind of similar player, in my opinion, to Trey Flowers. They both kind of put their hand on the ground. They can rush on the outside. They can rush inside. They can move in on passing downs to rush the quarterback. Good move. And another funny kind of thing is, if Michael Bennett goes to New England, or which he is, his younger brother, his brother Martellus Bennett, says he wants to come back and play for New England. I mean, hey, New England get a 2-for-1 basically at that point. But some trades going down, and I think that's probably just the tip of the iceberg in the trades that are going to happen this offseason. You've seen kind of a trend in the last couple seasons that teams are more willing to trade than they have been in a long time. You saw guys like Marcus Peters get traded last year. Brandon Cooks has been traded twice in the last 2 seasons. Each offseason he's been traded from New Orleans to New England, and last offseason New England sent him to L.A. to play for the Rams, who they face off in the Super Bowl. We all know how that went out. But trades have become a much bigger thing in the NFL the last couple of years, and it's kind of surprising, I guess, to say, because you never saw that trend about 4 or 5 years ago. But the trend is starting to change. I think this season could see more trades. Apparently, the Packers are looking to try to trade for Dee Ford from Kansas City. They're interested in have some talks with that. It'll be an interesting offseason for sure to see where some guys end up. We'll take a quick look here now at free agency, which will start next Wednesday as well. Got some big names on the market this season. A lot of money going to be dished out in that over that couple of days once the league kicks off. Number one rated free agent according to NFL.com, Le'Veon Bell, former Pittsburgh Steelers running back. You'll know the guy who didn't play at all last season, held out for a new contract, never got one, hitting the market now, and listed as the number one running back, number one free agent currently right now heading into this offseason. My thoughts on Le'Veon Bell are mixed. I think he's a very good football player, but I'm still kind of along the belief that you can find running backs in the draft. You don't need to go out and spend what Le'Veon's looking probably like $15 to $16 million a season. Yes, he's he's what they call a transcendent player of the century in this NFL article. But I don't believe that Le'Veon Bell will make or break a team if they have the postseason. There's been a lot of talks that Le'Veon could end up in the Jets. I don't know about that. There's been rumors recently that Le'Veon could head to Kansas City. Now, if he heads to Kansas City, I think that would be obviously the best move for him. Well, I don't know how much they'd pay him, per se. They have a lot of stuff they need to work on in the next couple of years financially, especially if they get rid of Justin Houston. They get rid of potentially Dee Ford if they do trade him. But Le'Veon Bell, add that to that Kansas City Chiefs offense, and I don't know how many points they could score a game. After they lost Kareem Hunt last season, the running game didn't suffer that much just because of the fact that Pat Mahomes could run around and sling the ball forever. So that teams had to back off and kind of sag and let the running game try to let the run game beat them, which allowed guys like Damian Williams to run pretty effectively. But Le'Veon Bell would just add such another dynamic to this offense that I don't know if we'd have seen in a long time, if at all. You think if a team with Pat Mahomes, Le'Veon Bell, Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, Sammy Watkins, that's one heck of a football team out there on offense. While the defense would suffer because all the money's tied up in the offense, and defense was the reason they lost that playoff game against New England last season. And I believe, you gave up 3 consecutive 3rd and 10s. You can't do that and expect to win a game in overtime, whether or not you get the ball after New England scores, as the Chiefs proposed that rule yesterday, or over the combine, that both teams should get a guaranteed touch of the football in overtime, whether or not a touchdown is scored. But like I said, if you give up 3 consecutive 3rd and 10s, whether or not you get the ball back to try to score again, that's a problem. You got to fix that defense. Le'Veon Bell would be a great fit for the offense, but for the organization as a whole, I don't believe Le'Veon Bell should be an option. Look at number 2 on the list, Earl Thomas, man who broke his leg last season, but he's a fantastic safety. He's not quite 30 years old, which is a positive for Earl Thomas. But the safety market has been devalued the last couple of years, which is interesting. You did just see Eric Weddle get signed will be signed by the LA Rams for a 2-year, about $10 million, or 2 years, I believe $11 million, 5.5 a season. Weddle's a fantastic safety. Weddle, I believe, will be a Hall of Famer based off of a fantastic career he's had. And yes, he's past 30, but he's still getting paid 5.5 a year. So it'll be interesting to see what Earl Thomas can get. Everyone says Earl Thomas is going to Dallas to play for Jerry Jones and the Cowboys. We'll see if that happens. I think it'd be a good fit for him. Dallas could use another safety, starting a couple of younger guys back there. I believe Xavier Woods, second-year player, got some starts last season after he got healthy. And Jeff Heath got some starts as well. You could use another safety back there in Dallas, and that defense looks very, very good. DeMarcus Lawrence, you got some very good linebackers. Sean Lee, Jalen Smith, Leighton Vander Esch, that rookie last year. Brian Jones playing cornerback. Could be a good defense out there in Dallas, especially if you bring on Earl Thomas. And a lot of people saying that Dallas they got a chance here to make a playoff run next season. Earl Thomas could be a part of that. Number 3 in the free agent market, you got Trey Flowers, former New England Patriot defensive lineman. I was surprised he didn't get franchise tagged. He's been such a productive player for New England these last couple of years. Well, that franchise tag would have been close to about $17 million, I believe. So New England's, I'm guessing, believing he will get more on the open market. Didn't want to put the franchise tag down on him, which is, I guess, why they made the Michael Bennett trade. But Trey Flowers, interesting player. Some interesting thoughts on my end that it'll be interesting to see what he does outside of New England, because they used him in a very specific role that he excelled at, and it'll be interesting to see what teams do with Trey Flowers, whoever signs him, wherever he will go. Number 4 on this list is quarterback Nick Foles, the guy who has made some incredible runs these last 2 seasons, taking the Eagles to the Super Bowl 2 years ago, coming in getting them to the postseason this year, upsetting the Bears, and then playing a tough game against the Saints, with the ultimately lost, and Nick Foles, a little interception, and a ball that went through it, Alshon Jeffrey's hands. But Nick Foles, he's been interesting. It's an interesting free agent for Nick Foles. It'll be interesting to see what he does. All reports are he's going to Jacksonville, which I believe that's where he will be. It'll be interesting to see if Jacksonville can find a way to maximize the skills and maximize the way he played in Philadelphia, find a way to run a similar offense. If Nick Foles can get them back to a playoff contender, like they were, like 2 years ago, they were 1 win away from the Super Bowl. They come in this season and they fell apart, partially due to the fact that their quarterback, their offense was terrible. They benched Blake Bortles partway through the season for Chad Henne. Will likely be cut as well, which should happen as long as Nick Foles comes to town. And the guy they have number 5 on this free agent list, we'll talk more about quarterbacks, because I want to hit on that position a little harder. But number 5 on this list is Landon Collins, another safety, which kind of surprises me. My view on Landon Collins is he's better, and as I believe the Giants see as well, since why he's on the market this season. Landon Collins is a guy who will be significantly better the closer he plays the line of scrimmage. He's not that great in coverage. He will struggle in coverage, and that's his downfall. He'll come up, he'll stop the run, he'll be a body that can get through the box, get through blockers, and make a tackle on a running back or a quick receiver play. He's not a guy who you can sit back in center field and expect him to patrol around and keep an eye on the guys back there. He will make mistakes back there, which is, I believe, why the Giants let him go. Yes, he's very, very good at the one thing he does, but he's not that great at coverage, which long-term will hurt an organization. Take a look at more quarterbacks. So obviously, we already talked about number 1 on the quarterback list, Nick Foles. That's the big name, I guess. Take a look at number 2 on this list. And you have to scroll down a ways, I guess, to find your number 2 quarterback. It's a kind of a deep free agent class. Your number 2 quarterback on this list is number 24 out of the top 101, according to NFL.com, Teddy Bridgewater. And Teddy Bridgewater is an interesting case in my mind. You haven't really seen Teddy Bridgewater play at all in the last 2 seasons. He's a guy who he made one start last season. That was Week 17 with a bunch of backups on the football field for the Saints in a game that they didn't care. And he was constantly under pressure. Had no time to throw, obviously, and didn't really. It was underwhelming, I guess you could say. Wasn't that special. However, he looked good last preseason. I think he should come in and compete for a starting job with the team. I don't know where he will end up because now a lot of people thought he could end up in Washington, but now they have Case Keenum to play quarterback, and they want to tie up more money because they still got Alex Smith on the books. I think Teddy Bridgewater could end up in a place like Miami. I think he could be successful in Miami. I really do. Give him a 1-year, 2-year contract. Give Teddy Bridgewater like $7 or $8 million, and say, go play quarterback for us. And give him a chance. If you're Miami, you can draft a guy in the first round to develop behind Teddy, and potentially if Teddy struggles, give the rookie a chance. But I think Teddy Bridgewater should have a chance to start the season in the NFL. Where that is, it's not entirely sure yet. But I think he's got a chance. If you keep looking here, find the next quarterback on this list. You gotta go ways down again. Yeah, honestly, there might not be another one on the top 100, which is honestly. You got Tyrod Taylor at number 65. Tyrod, another guy who's actually got some starting experience. He's got the last couple seasons more starting experience than Teddy Bridgewater. The thing with Tyrod Taylor is he's a very limited quarterback. He won't throw the ball that well. Well, he won't make mistakes and turn it over a ton. At least he didn't in Buffalo. His time in Cleveland was a little different. Tyrod's a guy who won't ever lead your team very far. Yes, he took Buffalo to the postseason 2 seasons ago as their quarterback. But that was on the back of a good defense and a very good running game on LaShawn McCoy. Tyrod was just there trying to avoid making mistakes in order for Buffalo to get anywhere near the postseason that season. And they did. But Tyrod's a solid back quarterback. I don't believe he is a starter in this NFL. That is all the quarterbacks on the top 100. Actually, hold on. Cracking the list at number 101 is Sam Bradford. Interesting guy. If Sam Bradford can stay healthy, which is, I don't know what to compare it to, but it's very, very rare. It's like, if it's not going to snow in Wisconsin during the winter. It's going to snow. It's like, will Sam Bradford stay healthy? Probably not. He's going to get hurt. But if Sam Bradford can stay healthy, he could be a pretty solid quarterback. He struggled in Arizona last season, but he came off to a couple very, very good seasons in Minnesota prior to going to Arizona. If you take a look at his 2 years in Minnesota, yes, he had injury shortened 2017, but his last full season back in 2015, he completed 71.6% of his passes for 3,877 yards, 20 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, and had Minnesota very close to Super Bowl conversation. In 2012, he played 2017, he played 2 games before going down. I think that's when Case Keenum took over, and then took them away. It's Minnesota Miracle. You know that. 2018, Sam Bradford goes to Arizona. Starts 3 games, loses all 3 of them. Completes 62.5% of his passes for 400 yards in those 3 games, 2 touchdowns, 4 picks. At age 31, Sam Bradford is a guy that if you could have any chance of saying, yeah, if you can stay healthy for part of the season, great. But right now, you look at Sam Bradford and say, can we get you on $2 million to come potentially back up our team here? You don't know what you're getting out of Sam, and which is why I think Sam Bradford will sit on the market for a while. before he gets a chance, maybe closer to June or July, or honestly, St. Bradford could be done at this point. We'll see, though. So that's football. That's free agency coming up next Wednesday. It's a fun time. I'm a big fan of football free agency. You see where teams fill the holes on their roster. You see the teams that say, all right, we'll leave this spot for the draft. We'll talk about draft on this show. I'm a big fan of the NFL draft. I guess you can kind of call me a nerd. I will sit down. I will watch tape on football players. I will say, hey, I like this guy. I like this guy. One of my favorite guys a couple of years ago, George Kittle, he's a tight end, from Iowa. He's one of my favorite players in the draft. Big fan of him. Look where he is now. He's a late round pick. Not a whole lot of expectations, but George Kittle, Pro Bowl last season, one of the best tight ends in the NFL at this point now. Him and Travis Kelce were the two best tight ends in football last season. So I will give my predictions on some of my favorite sleepers here in a couple weeks when we get close to the draft. After some teams run through after some of the athletes do their pro days back at school. It had the combine last weekend. Had some crazy athletic players. Montez Sweat running very, very fast at 4.41, 40-yard dash at 262 pounds. There's some athletes in this class. There's some very, very good edge rushers. We'll talk about those in a future show. We'll talk about the edge rushers. We'll talk about the quarterbacks in a future show as well when we get closer to the NFL draft. But for now, we'll step aside. We'll take a break. We'll come back and talk some baseball as spring training is underway, and we'll talk about some interesting. We'll talk about baseball free agency because I want to touch that topic and the strengths and weaknesses of baseball free agency. But we'll take a step. We'll take a step back. It's up the middle. Welcome back to the show here. Heading into MLB. As spring training has gotten underway here in the last couple of weeks, teams are starting to get their feel for the season, get the feel for their roster heading in opening day here, which is just on about 20 days away until we will see some Major League Baseball. As the summer will kick off, the big 162-game season will be underway. But first off, we'll talk about free agency. This is something I'm very interested in because it's been weird the last couple seasons. But you take a look at this season, this off season for the MLB. Some trades went down early. James Paxton got traded. Teams looked to other teams to make moves first, make trades. But you look at the free agency and you saw the two very, very good baseball players. You saw a generational talent in Bryce Harper, another phenomenal baseball player in Manny Machado. They didn't have a contract until late February, early March. Those guys spent months without a home. Or that, I mean, they're still doing fine. They made a ton of money in their previous stops, but they spent months not exactly knowing where they're going to play baseball the next season. There's no doubt that they were going to eventually find a place to play. They were too good to not have a place to play. But they spent a long time on the market, longer than I think a lot of people expected, and it hurt the entire free agency. It pushed back signing for a lot of players. That there's the guys that still don't have phones. We'll talk about them in a little bit. But guys like Mike Moustakas said, I'm not going to sign anywhere until Machado signs. But when Machado hadn't found a place, wasn't signed yet, Moustakas like, all right, I'll come back to Milwaukee. There's off season this season for free agency in the MLB was held back with Bryce Harper and Manny Machado. Neither one of them found a place to play for a long time. And you look in last week, Nolan Arenado signs a long-term contract to stay in Colorado. Part of that, in my belief, is he wants to stay in Colorado. The other part of it, I think, is he doesn't want to hit the market because you don't know how long you're going to sit on the market before you find a contract. It's safer to stick with your organization for this foreseeable future instead of test the open market and potentially not find a place to play for multiple months. You know what your value is going to be. While both Machado and Harper got very, very, very good contracts. Machado, 10 years, $300 million. He's gotten out after year 5 in San Diego if he doesn't want to play there anymore. That's $30 million a season. Bryce Harper, 12 years, $330 million. No trade clause. Doesn't have an opt-out. So Bryce Harper will be in Philadelphia for a long time. Looking at a dozen years, Bryce Harper in Philadelphia, so you better get ready for him out there, Philly fans. But both those guys got their money. You knew they were going to get their money. But it held back free agency for so many teams and for so many players. There's still guys on the market right now. You got Dallas Keuchel, former Cy Young winning pitcher. Yes, he's past the age of 30, and the teams are a little scared off by his declining fastball rate. But that is a guy who he's got to be a benefit to many, many teams. You can't tell me that you're looking at the Miami Marlins pitching rotation this season. Yeah, you got a lot of guys. So look, I'm a Marlins fan, so I know the situation. I understand that their team is not very good right now, but they got a lot of young arms. But I can't sit here and tell you that Miami's not going to say Dallas Keuchel will not provide an upgrade over someone got in right now. Yes, they don't have the money really, but you know what I'm trying to say. There's teams that could use Dallas Keuchel's services, yet he's still on the market. If you look at former Boston Red Sox closer Craig Kimbrell, he is still a free agent. One of the best closers in the major leagues the last 7 or 8 years, and yet he still hasn't found a contract. Yes, he's past the age of 30 as well, but he's still a good pitcher. He still pitched well for Boston last year. They won the World Series with Craig Kimbrell being their closer last season. He helped them win it all, and yet he doesn't have a contract. And we are, like I said, less than a month away now from the season starting. And yet 2 of your bigger name free agents are still on the market. The MLB free agency, they got to find a way to change this. You can't sit the entire offseason for a lot of fans just seems irrelevant. There's not like that feeling of, there's not that off-season feeling. Like you sit in the NFL, like in football, and you go, oh, free agency kicks off this week. A lot of big moves are going to go down. Trades will happen. Guys will sign for a ton of money. It'd be a good time. Then you got the draft. It's a big off-season event. You got all this piled up in about a 2-month, 3-month period. Fans love it. Baseball doesn't have that. When your guy, when the off-season kicks off in November after the World Series and all that, and guys just don't sign for a long time, the MLB doesn't have that factor of, we can sit here and follow this sport 12 months out of the season. Baseball, for a lot of people, is you follow it from March to October. The rest of those months, you might catch a glimpse of some news every once in a while, but nothing crazy is going to happen. The crazy stuff looks as these last couple seasons is going to happen in February and March, when guys like Harper and Machado will sign. If baseball can find a way, there's been talks, or I've been looking at suggestions on different articles. I saw one a couple weeks ago that said there should be a spending floor for teams. That'd be interesting, I guess. It would hurt some of the smaller market organizations, I believe, especially like a team like Miami, like Tampa Bay, organizations that don't get a ton of fans out to their ballparks, that are stuck kind of living with a smaller salary. It doesn't help teams like that to put a spending floor on. If you could find a way to make it more even, sure, the spending floor would work. It would encourage teams to make moves faster, I guess. That'd be the ultimate goal for. But it's tough. It's tough to see how baseball can potentially evolve to get back to what it once was, when free agents would fly off the shelves quick. Best guys would go for a ton of money early, not sit for 5 or 6 months. However, we're gonna move now into. We're gonna talk Bryce Harper Machado still. Yes. We're gonna look at who I think will have a bigger impact with their new organization in the first season. Only year one. Because you can look 4 or 5 years down the road, injuries will happen. They're both going to get older. Machado may or may not be in San Diego in 5 years, depending on how their younger guys like Fernando Tatis, some of the young pitchers, develop and play at the major league level. But who will be more valuable in year one? Harper or Machado? To their organization. I'll start off by saying this. I think Bryce Harper is a better baseball player than Manny Machado. But Harper enters a more favorable situation right now than Machado does. Harper walks into a team now that'll be starting JT Realmuto, former Miami Marlin, behind the plate, all-star last season. Rice Hoskins at first base. Yeah, they had Gene Segura at short, another former all-star, or he might have been all-star last year too. You got Bryce Harper now in the outfield. You got Andrew McCutchen out in the outfield now. Aaron Nola on the hill. Jake Arrieta behind Nola. There's a lot of good players out in Philadelphia right now that I believe Harper will help add to that talent, but they were already a playoff contending team before adding Bryce Harper. Now, you got to believe that they're like a World Series competitor by adding Harper. That's what you get from going from the roster they had to adding Bryce Harper. You go from playoff contender to World Series contender. If you don't make the playoffs with Bryce Harper this season, it's got to be a disappointment. I think they will. I don't know if they're going to win the division. I think they either win the division, they'll beat Washington for the division, or they'll go to the wild card. And either Washington or potentially Atlanta could win the division over Philadelphia still. I think 2 teams from the NL East will make the postseason this season. Whether that one will be the wild card, obviously, and I don't know if they're going to win that wild card game. That doesn't matter right now. But I think Philadelphia will either be the wild card or win the division. That's what it comes down to. Just by adding, even without Bryce Harper, they would have competed for that. I think it would have been a lot closer division race with them with Washington and Atlanta if they didn't have Bryce Harper. Now I think they have a leg up. If Harper can put together the seasons he's put together in the last year, wasn't his most successful season. Teams started to shift over more. I think he tried to do a little too much. As Washington they kind of started falling apart early. But Harper enters Philadelphia now. He'll play his former team multiple times this season, plenty of times. They're in the same division now. But I believe Harper is a better overall baseball player than Manny Machado. But this is why I don't believe he'll have as big of an impact to his team as Manny Machado. Machado enters a Padres team that's been forgotten for the last 5 to 10 years. Probably even longer than that. Machado's like the first big-name baseball player they've gotten out in San Diego. in a long, long time. Well, I don't know if Machado's numbers will be the same as Bryce Harper's. I believe. I think Harper. I think Machado might hit for a better average than Bryce Harper. I believe Harper will hit more home runs, driving more guys. Just due to the people around him in the batting lineup. Machado doesn't have the same protection that Bryce Harper will. Bryce Harper will have a lot of protection in his lineup. But I'm not even looking at this from a WAR standpoint. I think Bryce Harper will probably have a better WAR. But if you're looking at this from a guy who, if you come into the organization you come into, who will have a bigger direct impact, it's got to be Manny Machado. The fact that since bringing on Manny Machado, San Diego has brought, this is about, I think it was a couple of days ago I read this, but $3 million in new ticket sales? That's incredible. That's just by adding Manny Machado. That helps the organization long term. You got fans go to the ballpark, spend more money. That helps the organization as a whole, not just even the baseball team on the field. But Machado will play shortstop for the Padres. I think as long as Machado plays short, you got Fernando Tatis will come in and play third. You got some young guys in the outfield. You got some young pitchers coming up. But if you look right now, if Padres are going to compete at all this season, which I don't know if they will yet, I think they're close. But Machado might have a bigger direct impact on the San Diego Padres than Bryce Harper will have with the Philadelphia Phillies. There's a lot more that Machado can do for the team right now than Bryce Harper. Machado said a couple in an article earlier this morning, which I just found on ESPN, that quote from him, "I will always be the villain." It's true. There's a lot of people around baseball that don't like Manny Machado. There's reasons for that. Take a look during the World Series last season. He stepped on Boston Red Sox first baseman Stephen Pierce, his heel while he was running through first base. Okay, could be an accident, sure. People don't like it. He did a similar thing with Jesus Aguilar from the Milwaukee Brewers in the NLCS, which led to the benches clearing. Brewers fans hate Manny Machado at this point. Manny Machado has embraced that villain label that's been given to him. He's also been quoted saying that he will not be a guy that's Johnny Hustle, which that got flack earlier this offseason when he was potentially negotiating with the New York Yankees. And when Machado said that, Yankees took a step back a little bit. But Machado he's also been quoted saying that he's here to play the game. Here's a quote from this ESPN article that I'm taking a look at right now. This was written this morning. He says, "I'm going to play my game, and I'm going to go down as the player I am. I can't control what people think of me. I can't control any of that. I can only control what I do on the field. I can't control how good of a teammate I am, how good of a baseball player I am. I'm not going to say that I don't regret some of the things I have done. I've done some pretty dumb things. I'm not going to lie. I see the things I've done, and I have done some dumb things. At the same time, I've done things that get blown out of the water, and suddenly I am that guy. At the end of the day, I play baseball, and I don't let anything else get in my head." It's not the first time, this article also points out, that Manny Machado has labeled himself a villain. Back in 2017, early April, he spiked Dustin Pedroia on a slide into second base, and then during that series was thrown at by a lot of Boston pitchers. Machado has, part of me, I think I'm kind of glad that he's embraced this villain label. There's nothing he can do about it at this point. He can apologize all he wants. Like you said there, he can say he's done dumb things, and he can say he regrets these things. That's not going to change the perception the label that has been given to him now. So there's nothing he can really do except embrace it. I think it's a good move for Machado. I don't know if saying it up to public, whatever. It doesn't really matter, I don't think. But the fact that you can't let it bother you. I think that's kind of the mark of. I think he's a good athlete. While he may be this villain, I think Manny Machado, I think will have a good career in San Diego. The former Baltimore Oriole, the former LA Dodger, playing half a season with the Dodgers. But San Diego, I think, could be a good fit for Machado. Machado apparently also talked about his free agency decision to go to the Padres, saying that the organization wasn't his first choice in free agency. But he said, and quote, that the team showed me the love. So the Padres wanted him here. Well, it wasn't his first choice, apparently. Don't know what his first choice would have been. But I think San Diego could be a good fit for Machado. If you look down the road in the next couple of seasons, the Padres could be pretty good. Machado, if it's Tatis, pitchers, you name it, this could be a decent organization in the future, which you haven't thought of for San Diego in a long time. I think it'd be good for baseball for San Diego to get back into being a relevant baseball team, a relevant competitor. We'll have to wait and see how that goes. But yeah, back to the original topic. I believe Manny Machado will have a bigger direct impact on the San Diego Padres' potential success this upcoming season than Bryce Harper will. I wouldn't really call it a bold prediction, but I think it could be the case, just based off the talent level surrounding Bryce Harper versus Manny Machado. We'll step aside one more time here, but we'll come back. We'll talk some NBA basketball. We'll talk playoffs coming up. About 15, run out of games here for teams to make a push. And we'll talk about the East, who's in charge, who's trying to sneak in at the bottom. We'll talk about the West. Can anybody beat the Warriors? And we'll talk about LeBron James a little bit at the end of the show today. We'll take one more break. Once again, we'll come back, talk about the NBA. This is Up the Middle. Welcome back, everybody. Time to talk some NBA. NBA. And we'll start talking about the Eastern Conference and the playoff picture out there as we head into the home stretch of the 2018-19 season. The hometown Milwaukee Bucks sit at number 1. Still the best record in the NBA, 49-16, 8-2 in the last 10, and they continue to play good basketball. Yes, they lost to the Phoenix Suns last week. The only team they've lost to twice this season. They lost back-to-back games for the first time this season as well. It's not that important. They'll be fine, right? This is a Milwaukee Bucks team that they play so well together. You sit and watch a game and you see them. Yes, they have Giannis Antetokounmpo, potentially your MVP this season. That guy is the reason the Bucks are this good. But the rest of the guys around him have played very, very well this season as well, which is why the Bucks have been so good. They had a lot of doubters throughout this entire season, but they're still here. They're still winning games. I believe they'll walk in the postseason as the 1 seed in the East. They're followed in the Eastern Conference by Toronto, 2.5 games back in Milwaukee. Indiana Pacers, who the Bucks just beat. 76ers at the 4 seed. Boston at the 5 seed. Those top 5 teams right there are, I guess, the ones that people would probably put most in the teams that could come out of the Eastern Conference conversation. Boston has played down to their talent level all season. They've had issues in the locker room, and I don't know if that's ever going to get fixed come playoff time, so they might not make it out of the first round. They play the 76ers. Right, if this season end of the day, they play the 76ers in the first round. Boston has so much talent on that team, but right now, if they can't get over the tensions in their locker rooms, they won't make it out of the first round. The bottom 3 seeds right now: Detroit Pistons at 33 and 31. Brooklyn Nets are a game over 500, and then at that point, you get teams Miami, Orlando, and Charlotte are all a game out of the 8th seed. All teams are under 500. It's a toss-up who's going to make the postseason at that point. But right now, if you ask who's going to come out of the Eastern Conference, if I sat down and told you who's going to come out of the Eastern Conference right now, I'd say Milwaukee, Toronto. Obviously, the top 2 seeds. But I look at a team like Boston. They have holes in his team chemistry. Yes, they got a ton of talent, but just the holes in their team chemistry, I think, will come back and hurt them in the postseason. The 76ers, yes, they got a lot. They got a very talented starting 5. But I don't know how. I don't think they're ready to make a playoff run. They don't have enough guys off the bench that can help them win games. Indiana, if the Pacers still had Victor Oladipo, I think they could challenge. I think they could be a very good team, but sadly they do not. I think they're going to fall out of the 3 seed by the time the season wraps up. They're obviously going to be a playoff team for sure. The only team that has made the playoffs, clinched the playoff spot right now, is the Milwaukee Bucks, but the Pacers will be a playoff team. They don't have the talent, or they don't have the scoring threat that they did with Victor Oladipo to make a playoff push. Let's take a look out west quick now. Golden State remains on top. Denver Nuggets 2 games back of Golden State. They're the 2 seed. Houston, the 3 seed. They've won 7 in a row right now. Hottest team in basketball. Oklahoma City's the 4. Portland the 5. Utah sitting at the 6 seed. Utah's got an easy schedule the rest of the way, but they did lose last night. The Clippers at 7. The Spurs sitting at 8. And following them, the Sacramento Kings are the only team that if Sacramento can make a push late in the season, they would have to make up 4 games against San Antonio. So right now, I think it's pretty safe to say that your Western Conference will be those 8 teams. Golden State will take on San Antonio in the first round. That'll be, I think, Golden State will win that, obviously. Denver against the Clippers. Denver should win that. Denver's a very good basketball team. Houston against Utah, which I think could be an interesting series. Houston versus Utah, if that's how it ends up. But I believe I would partly believe that Utah could beat Houston in a 7-game series. It's kind of a bold prediction, but I don't know if Houston's deep enough. Houston, I think, is a very good regular season basketball team. I don't know about postseason. Take a look at 4 versus 5, then Oklahoma City against Portland. It's a toss-up. I guess we'll go Oklahoma City. So that would put Golden State would take on Utah, I believe, would be how that would work. No, excuse me. Golden State would take on OKC, and Denver would take on Utah, which I believe Golden State and Denver would come out of. So there's been a lot of talks of who could be good enough or who can challenge Golden State out west. I think the biggest challenger, Denver Nuggets. It's a team they'll play very, very good defense. Well, they won't blow you away by scoring a ton of points. They still score 112 a game, which is, if you take a look at the 8 teams currently in the Western Conference playoff picture, that 112 points is 6th out of those 8 teams. Defensively, though, their 107 a game is 2nd behind only Utah. Utah gets up 106.9 a game. They play good defense with Rudy Gobert down there. But I believe the way Denver plays the game could match up well against Golden State. While I still believe Golden State will be the team that comes out of the West to play a team like the Bucks or Toronto or whoever comes out of the East, Golden State is still the team to beat out West. Whether that will change if Klay Thompson heads out this offseason, we don't know. It'll be interesting to see what happens with that situation. But until we get closer to the playoffs, until we get into the postseason, the NBA, I think it's gonna be I don't think it'll be that exciting, this playoff race down the stretch. That's just me. You kind of already know who's getting into the postseason. The NBA is, in my opinion, kind of a top-heavy league. If you just look out east. Yes, there are 7 teams with a winning record. There are 5 teams 10 games over 500. Out west, there are also 5 teams over 10 games over 500. So 5 games over 500. How many teams out west are 5 games over 500? Out east, there's 5. 5 teams over 5 games over 500. There are 8 in the West. The East is a top-heavy league conference. Bucks 49-16. You look at the bottom, 13-52 for the New York Knicks. It's the worst team in the NBA. Worst team in the NBA. There are 3 teams in the Eastern Conference that have yet to win 20 games. There's only 1 team out west that has yet to win 20 games. That's the Phoenix Suns, who surprisingly won 3 games in a row right now. I know, right? They went from being the worst team in the NBA, now they have moved up to 2nd worst in the NBA, behind the Knicks. But the playoff picture, you look at it, and there probably won't be a ton of movement. If there's anything, it'll be the 8th seed in the East, and whatever combination of Miami, Orlando, and Charlotte makes the postseason as the 8th seed in the East isn't going to put a fight against the Bucks. It'll be a quick series out east. So that's your playoff update right now. We'll take a look. We'll keep an eye on it as the season progresses. We'll get closer to the postseason here. Not many games left. I'm looking forward to the postseason. I'm looking forward to seeing the Bucks play as the 1 seed. I think they got a chance this season to make a special run. We'll keep an eye on that. But we want to move over now. I want to talk about LeBron James. Everyone loves to talk about LeBron James. I know. It's kind of it seems like an old topic, right? But LeBron James did something special a couple of days ago. We'll talk about that real quick. But I want to talk about something else that people say has overshadowed the LA Lakers. First off, LeBron James passed Michael Jordan and for 4th all time on the all-time scoring list. I want to say now, congratulations, LeBron James, great job. You did something that, if people want to keep arguing about who's the GOAT, LeBron James, Michael Jordan. Now you got another feather in your cap there, LeBron. If you want to be for that argument, if you're better than LeBron James or better than Michael Jordan. But we're gonna take a look at this. We're gonna take a look at the Lakers and LeBron James, the saga this season, and I'll give you some of my opinions on the whole situation. LeBron James. So the Lakers recently announced that LeBron James' minutes will be reduced for the remainder of the season, and he won't really play back-to-back games. Give him some rest. Basically, the Lakers are throwing the towel. Yes, they're 5 games under 500. They're 30-35 right now. It's not very good. But you take a look a couple weeks ago. Actually, I want to back this up a second. I want to take a look at the Lakers as a whole right now. Take a look at their team as a whole. What has gone wrong for this organization this season? First thing that went wrong, LeBron James' injury at the end of December. It put him some time back. I think it went 6-12 without LeBron James. It's not good. So if you take out the 6-12, they're getting over 500. While that still doesn't put them in the playoff picture, that still puts them probably about 8 games, 7 or 8 games behind the Spurs. Let's just say LeBron's healthy in that 18-game stretch, and instead of going 6-12, they go 12-6. You're looking at a team that's very, very close to a postseason push right now. Very, very close to a team that's looking at a postseason push. You're looking at a team that would likely have a game back of the Spurs. After that, though, you move into the new year, and that's when the whole Anthony Davis situation goes down. The whole thing about Lakers should trade, basically offer their entire team, outside of LeBron James and a couple other veterans, for Anthony Davis. Pelicans say no. We don't want to move in Anthony Davis right now. Not to you, at least. The team chemistry had to deteriorate. LeBron James is like, we should do anything it takes to get Anthony Davis to come play here. LeBron says we should give up anybody on the roster, basically, except for me, to get Anthony Davis to come play here. And I think it hurt the team chemistry. You even saw it. They would go to, there was a game they were losing. LeBron James sitting by himself on the end of the bench. 3 or 4 chairs, wide open between him and the rest of his teammates. They go to visiting cities. Guys will be sitting there shooting free throws. And the fans will be chanting, LeBron wanted to trade you. Adding LeBron James in the mentality that LeBron is basically a charge here. If he's technically not. Luke Walton's the head coach for the remainder of the season. There's been talks that he will be gone after the season is over. But LeBron James has hurt this team. Has hurt the people around him. They don't want to really. I don't know if they really want to play with LeBron anymore. It'll be interesting to see if LeBron can find a way to bring another superstar to the Lakers next season. After what happened this season, yes, it's like people want to come play with LeBron, you'd think. But after what happened this season, it'd be interesting to see if a lot of superstars say, hey, we want to come out and play for the Lakers. We want to come out and play with LeBron James. He's not going to throw us under the bus, is he? You don't know that. And for a Lakers team that, even with LeBron, is going to miss the playoffs, doesn't look good. LeBron James has made it to the NBA Finals for so many years in a row. He won't even sniff the postseason this season. There will be no playoffs for LeBron James. There will be no. LeBron James said he turned it up, right? He's got to go into playoff mode early. they've struggled even with LeBron James in playoff mode. Is that because people don't care on his team? Maybe. Is basketball the most important thing in our life, as LeBron James said? I don't know. Doesn't have to be, does it? I mean, I thought it was funny. So I'm not dissing LeBron for saying that basketball needs to be the most important thing in your life right now. But doesn't it seem kind of hypocritical? LeBron, do you not care about your kids? You're in a movie this summer. Space Jam 2 or whatever. I'm not saying that should be the most important thing, but it's a side thing you've been doing. Basketball, you gotta have, I don't know, whatever. We'll move on from that because I want to talk more about that. But for the Lakers, another thing that came out is Lonzo may not play the rest of the season. He got hurt back on January 19th due to an ankle sprain. He's still dealing with a bone bruise. The Lakers, you got to take a look. This offseason is going to be huge for the Lakers. They're not going to make the playoffs. That's a definite for sure. But you look at this team. You don't see a lot of effort coming out of the Lakers right now. Yes, with LeBron James losing minutes now, Lonzo won't play the rest of the year. Some of these younger guys, it's like this is your audition to stick around next season. This is your audition to see if LeBron's going to want you on the team next season. If they get rid of Luke Walton, who are they going to hire a head coach? I'm going to sit back. I'm going to sit right here, right now, and make a bold prediction. I don't know if it's bold, but I'm going to make a bold prediction. Head coach of the Lakers next season will be Tyronn Lue. I think it'd be interesting. Tyronn Lue knows LeBron James. They obviously worked together in Cleveland. They won a championship in Cleveland. They went to the finals 3 years in a row. And Tyronn Lue gets fired this season after struggling with no roster basically out there in Cleveland. They got nobody. But Luke Walton, there's rumors that he's gone after this season. It's been too much of a disappointment. Luke Walton's gone. Whether that's the decision of the organization as a whole or partly due to LeBron James and what he wants is up for debate. However, next season, this offseason will be a big one for LA, and they need to make a move in order to stay relevant next season, I believe. They need to catch up to teams like Golden State, Denver, Portland, the Rockets. Lakers got a long way to go, I think, before they're competitive again. They need another stud, and they need to find a way to fix what LeBron James has partially done this season with the team around him. Anyways, that will wrap up the first show. Next time we'll come back. Probably do one here in the next couple of days. We're on one over probably our spring break here. We'll talk about free agency. That'll kick off. We'll talk about some of the most recent deals. We'll talk trades potentially. We'll talk baseball. We'll get even closer to opening day and seeing the 2019 season for MLB. We'll make some predictions about baseball this upcoming season, which I'm looking forward to. I'll try to keep them. I'll try to keep them interesting. Try to keep them bold a little bit. We might kick off some NFL draft talk next time. And we'll see what else happens in the world of sports in the upcoming weeks here. Something always happens. It's always a good time to follow up on the sport talk. Once again, though, I'm your host, Will Montreal. Good to be here today. This has been Up the Middle.